E3 came and went. New games were announced, trailers were shown, and the question of what looks exciting has been argued back and forth. What I started to notice was that the games we're most excited for seem to be single-player games. They are story-driven, systemically designed games that fulfill some sort of fantasy. And those which are multiplayer primarily, or multiplayer only, are the ones that seem to be the most controversial. Fallout 76 is a great example of this. The largest contention is whether or not anyone really wants to play in the Fallout universe with other people. How will they make that work? Will it still be Fallout? A lot of comparisons are made to Elder Scrolls Online, both for good and bad. Some people using ESO as a sign that Bethesda can make a good online game, and others using it to say that Fallout 76 clearly won't be the Fallout they wanted. Regardless, another bell tolls for the single-player only game. That's certainly the mentality of Activision. The new Call of Duty Black Ops 4 doesn't have a single-player campaign. Though it's difficult to say looking at the varying reports from insiders, it seems likely that they never intended to put one in. And it's not surprising. According to True Achievements, Black Ops 3 saw a 4% story participation through achievement unlocks. Despite that, Black Ops 3 was the top-selling game in 2015. People aren't even going to notice that the single player isn't there, and those who do won't care. In fact, it's likely that because Activision isn't spending money on voice actors, single-player level design, writers, and more, this will be the most profitable Call of Duty ever. And there's certainly no going back from that. I don't even feel particularly controversial when I suggest that World War II was the last Call of Duty single-player campaign we're likely to see. Additionally, Electronic Arts made a lot of waves last year when they shut down Visceral Studios. The death of Star Wars 1313 was followed by an announcement from EA saying they wanted to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to and enjoy for a long time to come. If that doesn't sound like a shift from single-player to multiplayer, I can't imagine what does. And this is a major industry shift. The change from games to games as a service, where a player can be part of an ongoing development of the title. Perhaps the most notorious of these in recent history is Sea of Thieves, a game with basically no content from the developers except for systems that allow you, as the player, to create your own stories. The shared world mentality, which I personally call bring your own fun. It isn't the first of this style that goes to MMOs and the ongoing subscription model, but Xbox Game Pass, EA Origin Access, and other subscription services rely on you to continue to play and continue to pay to turn a profit. Take-Two Interactive, the publisher of Grand Theft Auto, has shown that microtransactions, low-cost purchases of additional content, represent over 48% of their company's total revenue, and that's growing by 66% every year. For those of you who hate numbers, that's $1 billion a year from microtransactions. And Games as a Service aims to revolutionize that by making you feel like you're getting a lot more content for a lower price, when in reality you're becoming a reliable monthly revenue stream. No longer does a developer need to rely on huge content drops in order to see big bumps in revenue. They can simply drip feed it to you to ensure you don't cancel your subscription. And the biggest liability in this business model is single-player experiences. Over the past 2 weeks, I decided to take EA up on their bargain of a deal for Origin Access. $5 a month for access to every game in the EA Vault, and there's a reasonable amount of those games as well. See, I was looking for a single-player experience in a first-person shooter, and EA Access gives me a couple that I hadn't played before. Namely, Battlefield 1, Titanfall 2, Battlefield Hardline, Mass Effect Andromeda, The Surge, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and a few more as well. All of these games are mine for this month. And since I've finished all but one of them, I will be canceling my subscription soon. This certainly is a bad deal for EA. They've lost what they might consider to be hundreds of dollars in content that I didn't buy. And I feel quite confident I'm not the only person using the service in this way. The problem for them is that single-player content does not engage the player to come back again and again, month after month. Some programs like Xbox Game Pass try to overcome this by introducing all new games to the service, theoretically giving you a reason to keep your subscription going. And it certainly doesn't hurt that they've continued to introduce games to that service that are primarily part of the bring your own fun variety. Beyond the subscription model, the lack of single-player titles is the fault of the incredible popularity of multiplayer titles, and also the failures of recent single-player titles to reach expectations. Prey, Dishonored 2, Resident Evil 7, Tomb Raider, and Deus Ex Mankind Divided were all games that were considered by their publishers to be disappointing. In fact, single-player titles overall are not doing particularly well, and in 2017, only 2 single-player only titles managed to be bestsellers. bestsellers, Breath of the Wild and Horizon Zero Dawn. The argument there, which is difficult to parse, is whether that is simply because those two games are so excellent and so were all the other multiplayer games on the list, or if those two games were excellent despite their single-player status. Did they sell well because they are good and that's it, or did they sell well against the market's preference for multiplayer gaming? In fact, looking at the popular award-winning games of the past several years, very few jump out as being single-player only titles. God of War, Persona 5, The Witcher 3, and that's about it. But back into my trip into EA's 99% off deal that I managed to snag, I went through about 40 hours of single-player campaigns, and they were so disappointing. I can barely remember anything exciting from Battlefield 1 outside of the prologue, which was pretty damn cool. I can't remember much of Titanfall 2, but the time travel device was super cool. I can't remember much of any of these games because, quite frankly, the feeling I got from all of these titles is best described as meh. And I tried to think about the coolest single-player experiences I'd played in a while. Something that I would pay $60 for and feel good about, and I came up with Prey, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Doom. Lots of immersive sims or pure adrenaline shooters. These are games that cost between $90 and $140 million to produce. Meanwhile, Battlefield 4 also cost $100 million to develop, but adding in a story and single-player mode as compelling as these means adding at least $50 or $60 million to the development. It's certainly no wonder that kind of investment in a market that's moving away from full-price games towards steady micropayments might be difficult to swallow. I don't know that I could justify spending $50 million developing a stellar single-player campaign, only to see less than 10% play through it. People don't play single-player games, they don't finish the campaigns, and they never pick the game up again. These are consumers who aren't being repeatedly monetized, and that is something that an investor doesn't like. And it's really, really hard to justify when you see games like PUBG becoming one of the highest-selling PC games of all time, without ever spending a single dollar on a single-player campaign. So for all the hype around the newest games, is it all that surprising that multiplayer, ongoing, recurrently monetized content is the king of the industry today? How did you feel about E3? Is the game you're most excited for a single-player title? Are you the type of gamer who plays multiplayer primarily? And if so, would you prefer to pay a monthly fee to always play the hottest multiplayer games out there, even if you didn't really own it? I'm super excited to hear your opinions on this. Part of me thinks most of you don't even play single-player titles anymore, so you won't care at all. If you liked this video, please leave a like. If you really liked it, you can share it to any of those convenient buttons located right below the video that YouTube has put there just for you. If you didn't like it, then don't do either of those, but if you did, you can watch another one in the corner right now, and as always, we will see you on the next one.